Hi everyone, thanks for joining us here at Cakes Cooking and More. I'm Mary Lockwood. Today's recipe is a herb and cheese bubble loaf. You can see that the bread sort of comes in little round bubbles that look like it's coming up out of the pan, kind of like soap bubbles. So let's see what we need. Okay, so for this recipe you only need a few things to start. It does have to be done in 3 stages though. So first off, we're going to need a little bit of milk, and we're just going to put that in our saucepan. We're going to add a little bit of salt and then just a little bit of butter. Now you're just going to heat this. You don't want to completely melt your butter, so just enough to really kind of warm it up a little bit. Now in the meantime, we have 1 cup of flour in our bowl and 1 packet of dry yeast. You're just going to pour that into your flour. You just want to give it a light stir. Alright, once you've got that mixed, we're just going to be waiting for this to warm up, and so we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, now that it's warmed up, again, you don't want to melt the butter completely, so I just have a little bitty bit of butter still in there, a little pat. So we're just going to pour that into our flour and yeast. I'm just going to mix that up. It's going to be pretty wet right now. This helps the yeast activate, so you want to make sure you mix it pretty well. Alright, once you've got that mostly mixed up, you want to take your mixer. You're going to blend this on high for about 2 or 3 minutes just to get it really good and mixed. Make sure as you're mixing that you stop once in a while and just scrape the stuff back down into the mix. Once you've got it back down in there, just mix again. Alright, now that we've got this really well mixed, we've got a little bit more flour. We're just going to add a little at a time and mix that in. You can use a KitchenAid mixer if you want for this. It actually works pretty well. I just didn't grab mine today for some reason. Just want to mix in as much of the flour as you possibly can. You won't be able to get quite all of it in. It gets pretty stiff. That's what you're looking for, but it gets a little harder to mix it in. Alright, once you've got most of your flour in, I'm going to take your dough out. It's going to be a little bit warm. At this point, what we're going to do is just keep adding our flour and kneading it. It takes about probably 10 minutes to get it all really in there. But you want to get all of the flour in. You just have to do it by hand towards the end. We'll be back in a few minutes after I've got this all kneaded up. Alright, so at this point you'll see that it's pretty stiff. Most of my flour is in, but not quite all of it. And if you're doing this, you'll notice that your dough is no longer quite warm on the warm milk that you poured in. So at this point we're going to start adding our cheddar cheese. You can use different cheeses and that works just fine, but I like the cheddar. So you're just going to add that a little at a time and then just keep kneading and adding more of the flour and more of the cheddar as you go. You want that pretty well mixed in, but if you add the cheese too soon, it turns to kind of sticky. It sort of melts a little bit and you really don't want that. So you want to wait till it's dried a little bit and a little bit less warm. And then just keep going. Okay, at this point we've been kneading for about 10 minutes. Pretty much all of my cheese and flour have been shoved in. You'll be able to see on your dough where the cheese is. It has more of a golden color in those spots. You should be able to see your cheese. Now you can add a little extra cheese, but if you do, be prepared, it will change the consistency a little bit. So you might need to add a little more flour if you do that. Alright, so you can see it's pretty stiff. It's got a little bit of elastic, but not a lot. You're just going to roll that into a ball type shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, we're going to take a glass bowl and just lightly spray it with some non-stick cooking spray. Now you want to put your bowl in, just roll it a little bit, kind of coat it a little all over. Alright, now we're going to let this sit covered for about an hour before it's actually ready to go to the next step. So we'll see you in an hour. Alright, now we just need a lightly floured surface. You don't need a whole lot. Just take your dough out. You're just going to knead it for just a minute. You want to try to get any air that has gotten in there out. So you don't have to do a whole lot. Alright, once you've done that, we're just going to let that sit and rest for about 10 minutes and then we'll be back to roll it out. Okay, now that our dough is sat for about 10 minutes, we're just going to take it, kind of flatten it a little bit, just so we can work with it. We're going to roll it out to a fairly large rectangular square. You don't want the dough too thick, so you're going to roll it out quite a bit. Just keep going until you've got a nice big square. And it doesn't have to be a perfect square. Don't concern yourself with trying to get it square. It's not going to really roll out as an actual square. You just want it fairly flat. Your dough shouldn't be too awful thick. If it's too thick, you'll get lots of air bubbles, and you're not going to want that. The name bubble loaf is for the shape, not for, air stuck in it. Alright, once you've got it fairly flat, and we're talking around a 1/4 inch thickness. You're just going to cut it into strips. Pete's cutter works great for this part. Your strips don't need to be perfect either. But you want around 50 pieces. Seems like a lot, but there's a good reason for it. Alright, once you've got your pieces, if you've got really tiny ones like this, add them to another one until you get a good size piece. Alright, you're going to roll each one however much you need. You don't need them huge, but you want them fairly rounded with the bottoms, the edges tucked towards the bottom. They'll look sort of like that. And then just set them to the side and just keep going until all of your pieces are rolled into little balls. This will take you probably about 10 minutes. The more often you've done it, the faster it goes, but the first couple of times it'll take you a little while. Okay, now that our dough is all rolled up, we're going to take some melted butter. We have a little bit of parsley, a little bit of oregano, and a little bit of marjoram. Just going to give those a nice little stir. Once you've got those fairly well mixed together, keep your pastry brush because you're going to need that at the very end for the last of it. So just set that there. Alright, then we're going to need a loaf pan. And you're just going to spray that lightly with non-stick cooking spray. Alright, you're going to take each one of your little dough balls and grab it at the area that you've been pinching the corners together and just dip that in there, kind of tilt it a little bit, and then take that pinched part and put that down at the bottom and place it in your loaf pan. And just keep going until you've got them all in there. Take you a few minutes, and you kind of have to shove them in. It starts getting kind of full, and then we'll be back. Okay, so here at the very end, you shouldn't have much of your butter and spices left. But if you do, take your pastry brush, just get the last of it out of your bowl that you can. Just kind of lightly brush the tops. Alright, now we're going to let this set in our pan for another 35 to 45 minutes. They're going to kind of loosen up and get a little bit bigger, and then we'll be back. Alright, now that our dough has had time to rise, you see that it's about twice the size it was when you first put the balls into the bowl. So we're going to put this in the oven at 375 for about 35 to 45 minutes. The last 10 you're going to want to cover it with aluminum foil so that it doesn't get a real hard crust on the top. And you should be able to tap it at that time and hear sort of a hollow noise. As long as you hear that, then you're good to go. So let's put this in and we'll be back in a little while. Okay, so that's it for today. You can see that it has some nice browning to the top, and if you tap on it, don't know if you guys can hear it from there, but it has sort of a hollow sound to it, and that's really what you're looking for. Now you can serve it in the pan, but I tend to take mine out so that you can pull each little bubble off, and then it's really good if you dip it in like marinara sauce. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please hit subscribe. And we do a new show every Friday, so we'll see you then.